Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we are taking the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene
Okay.
and zeroing in on a tactic that might just change the way you approach any competition,
hmm
the pressure strategy.
That's right. And I think people hear war and they kind of assume it's about brute force.
Right.
But Green is getting at something much more clever here.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So it's not about overwhelming your opponent with like sheer size or power.
Exactly. It's about keeping them off balance.
Uh,
So they're constantly reacting to you.
okay,
They never get a chance to set the agenda
right.
or execute their own plan because they're too busy dealing with your moves.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Hmm.
And I mean, I could see how that would be incredibly effective, but are we talking literal warfare here, or can this apply to, say, business or even personal relationships?
It is applicable across the board.
Wow.
Think of it like this. By applying constant strategic pressure, you induce mental fatigue in your opponent. You start making mistakes.
Okay.
They become reactive, not proactive. And that's where you gain the upper hand.
So it's almost like you're dictating the pace of the game, forcing the other side to play catch-up.
Precisely. And history's full of brilliant examples of this.
Give me one.
Alexander the Great, for instance, he was a master of the pressure strategy.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't he known for just relentless military campaigns, like never giving his enemies a chance to breathe?
All right. He understood that if you give your opponent even a moment to regroup,
Ah,
they will regain their strength and potentially launch a counterattack.
oh,
He kept the pressure on constantly pursuing his enemies, even after victories,
really?
exhausting them into making bad decisions.
Wow. So even when he was winning, he never let up.
Nope.
It's like that saying, strike while the iron is hot, but taken to a whole new level.
Exactly. And that's a key point.
Yeah.
Sustainability, you need to apply pressure in a way that you can maintain.
Right.
Otherwise, you risk burning yourself out and becoming vulnerable.
Okay. So Alexander the Great, relentless pressure, got it. But how does this translate to, the modern world? I'm not exactly planning on conquering Persia anytime soon.
Well,
You know,
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean.
yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is how can we, like the listeners, use this pressure strategy in our own lives? What does it look like outside of a military context?
Well, let's take a look at some modern examples. Think about companies like Tesla or Amazon.
Okay.
They're constantly innovating, expanding, releasing new products and services.
Yeah.
They keep their competitors on the defensive, always playing catch up.
That's a great point. It's like they're setting the pace of innovation in their respective industries,
Yeah,
and everyone else is just scrambling to keep up.
exactly. And because they're always on the offensive,
Hmm.
their competitors are forced to react, which means they're always one step behind.
Right.
They never have the time or the resources to develop their own long-term strategies.
So staying ahead of the curve is a form of applying pressure. It's not just about being aggressive.
Yeah.
It's about being proactive and setting the agenda.
Precisely, and that's a crucial element of the pressure strategy.
Okay.
You don't want to be the one reacting to your opponent's moves. You want to be the one dictating the terms of engagement.
So how do we do that?
Right.
How do we go from being reactive to proactive, especially when it feels like we're already under pressure ourselves?
It starts with a shift in mindset.
Yep.
Instead of waiting for things to happen to you, you start thinking about how you can make things happen. Identify your goals, develop a plan, and then start taking action.
So it's about taking control, about being the one who makes the first move.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to be bold. Sometimes the most effective way to apply pressure is to do something unexpected, something that throws your opponent off balance.
Like Napoleon's lightning-fast attacks.
Exactly.
We talked about Alexander the Great, but Napoleon was known for his speed and surprise, wasn't he?
Exactly. Napoleon's rapid maneuvers kept his enemies off balance.
Okay.
By the time they organized the defense, he was already on to his next target.
Wow.
He understood that maintaining momentum is crucial to keeping the pressure on.
So speed is another key element of the pressure strategy.
It is.
But is there a danger in moving too fast, in pushing too hard?
That's a great question, and the answer is absolutely. Remember, we talked about the importance of sustainability.
Yeah.
Well, overextending yourself is a surefire way to burn out and lose your advantage.
Right, it's like sprinting a marathon.
Yeah.
You might have a great start,
Yeah,
but you'll never make it to the finish line if you don't pace yourself.
exactly. And a perfect example of this is Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union. Initially, his blitzkrieg tactics were incredibly effective.
Oh, right, yeah.
But he overextended his forces, exhausted his resources, and ultimately gave the Soviets the opening they needed to launch a devastating counterattack.
So even when you're winning, You need to be mindful of your limitations and make sure you have the resources to maintain the pressure over the long haul.
Precisely. And that brings us to another crucial point, knowing when to ease up. Sometimes the best way to apply pressure is to give your opponent a little breathing room,
Really?
just enough to make them think they're safe and then strike when they least expect it.
So it's not about constant, relentless pressure. It's about applying pressure strategically,
Yes,
knowing when to push and when to pull back.
exactly. It's like a game of chess. You don't want to make every move an attack. Sometimes the most effective move is a strategic retreat, a way to reposition your pieces and prepare for your next offensive.
This is all making a lot of sense, but I think what our listeners really want to know is how to apply this pressure strategy in a way that feels, ethical.
Right. That's a great point, and it really boils down to intention. Are you using pressure to manipulate and control others?
Yeah.
Or are you using it to motivate and inspire them?
So it's about being strategic, not manipulative, like pushing people to grow and achieve their potential,
Right.
not just pushing them around for your own benefit.
Exactly. Think of it like a coach pushing their athletes to train harder to push past their limits. They're applying pressure. But it's for the athlete's own good to help them reach their full potential.
I like that analogy. So how do we find that balance? How do we know when we're applying pressure in a way that's constructive, not destructive?
It comes down to empathy and communication.
Okay.
Put yourself in your opponent's shoes. Try to understand their perspective, their motivations, their fears, and then communicate with them clearly and honestly.
Yeah.
Explain your goals, your intentions, and why you're pushing them.
So it's not just about applying pressure. It's about building trust and rapport, making sure the other person understands that you're on their side even when you're challenging them.
Precisely, and that's what separates a true leader from a bully. A leader inspires others to follow them,
Right.
while a bully forces others to submit.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered a lot of ground today, from Alexander the Great to Amazon, from the battlefield to the boardroom. It's amazing to see how this one strategy, the pressure strategy, can be applied in so many different contexts.
It really is a testament to the power of strategic thinking, and the beauty of it is that it's not about brute force or intimidation. It's about understanding human psychology and using that knowledge to your advantage.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the pressure strategy, let's leave our listeners with a final thought. What's the one key takeaway you want them to remember?
I would say this pressure can be a powerful tool for achieving your goals, but it's important to use it wisely and ethically. Don't be afraid to push yourself and others, but do it with empathy, communication, and a genuine desire to help everyone succeed.
That's great advice. So to all our listeners out there, think about how you can apply the pressure strategy in your own lives, whether you're facing a tough negotiation, a challenging project, or even just trying to motivate yourself to reach your full potential. Remember the principles we've discussed today.
Stay proactive, control the pace, keep your opponents off balance, but don't overextend yourself, and most importantly, use pressure strategically and ethically, always with the goal of creating a win-win situation for everyone involved.
And that's it for our deep dive into the pressure strategy. We hope you found it valuable and insightful. Until next time, keep diving deep. And remember, the power of pressure is yours to command, but use it wisely.